Ladies and gents, Seahawks fans of all ages, the draft is over. We now have our draft class and we've signed some UDFAs today. Mitch and I are going to talk about that. But first, Mitch, how are you doing? How was your draft weekend, sir?
Really good, actually. Really good weekend. I managed to get a couple of predictions in, which is lovely. I was a bit nervous about landing a few after doing quite well last year. I thought I can't not hit on any this year. Yeah, I felt like it went really well. I'm exhausted because it's thrown my sleep patterns out, but absolutely loved watching every second of it.
Yeah, it was good. We'll get into it in a bit. First, thank you for everyone that's starting to tune in as well. Really appreciate it. By all means, like and share this. Yeah, like I said, sleep patterns gone. Obviously, we had our live watch party for the first round, and then sort of dipping in and out of the Discord with our members of the Discord, sort of talking about the others, and obviously updating on X. But it's it's a heck of a weekend, especially if you're not based in the US. But yeah, it was good. Apart from that, how's your week been? Apart from draft, or is it all draft?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's just this week just becomes all about the draft, doesn't it? No, I mean, I took a few days off for the draft as well, a few days prior, to try and adjust my sleep pattern, so I wasn't sort of sat yawning halfway through the first night and stuff. So yeah, it does become, weirdly, being a person in the UK, you shouldn't be as into the draft as we inevitably become. But yeah, I know it's my week has been entirely draft orientated, to be honest.
Good. Mine has been kind of. It's been single parent, which I you know what, pat on the back to anyone who's a single parent that may watch this. I salute you. I respect you. I can't wait to go and pick my wife up from the airport next Sunday morning. Put it that way. I am exhausted. I need a holiday after she's been on holiday. I mean, with that, obviously, we're going to talk draft. We're going to talk the Seahawks draft picks, the UDFAs. We'll give you some information, a little bit of background on what we know. Mitch has done a lot of scouting on these players. We'll look at their fits and their projections as starter, or if they're going to be a project piece. We'll look at the UDFAs that's starting to come in as well. I'm pretty sure we've signed all of our UDFAs now. We'll also give you our views on this draft, and they may be contrasting. And then we'll grade the draft and why. And at the end, we'll look at a few little rumors that might be there or what we think might happen. And then we'll address that in next week's episode. We'll do a roster rundown. But before we go any further, massive thanks to people that are tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell and share. Get in the comments anything we say. If you agree, don't agree, have a different view, let us know, and we will make sure we try and get as many of them out as possible. As I mentioned earlier, during the draft, we were all over our Discord. The members of the Discord were on point, as always. You can join that. The link is in the description. And I know draft season's over, but we were working with Walk the Mock this year, and they were absolutely fantastic. We used it on pretty much the majority of our episodes leading up to the draft. If you want to sign up to them, whether it's this year or in prep for next year, use our code 12Talk at checkout. Done. And if you like what we're doing, buy us a coffee or a beer. After a week of lone parenting with a 4-year-old, I need them. But without further ado, Mitch, should we hit the theme music?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. There we go. Back once again with the Renegade Masters. Now, as this is a draft pod, essentially, big shout out to UK Seahawkers who are sponsoring our draft content. We are both proud UK Seahawkers. If you'd like to join them, it's £12 a year. Although that's gone all the way to the end again. I hate this presentation. I just need to automate it. It's £12 a year, £20 for the family. You get some cool freebies. You get access to their national meetups, which are always fantastic. If you're in the UK, it's very hard to find Seahawkers locally, so we'll try and meet up nationally, and soon, hopefully, we'll have regional meetings. This year, you get your cool wristband, which is all throwback. You get your patch to put either on your jersey or a jacket, wherever you fancy. Your membership card and an RFD card. And then the national meetup is at the Flying Circus at Castlegate in Newark-on-Trent, and that is only a couple of weeks away. £5, get in, meet all the UK Seahawkers. Brilliant event. But without further ado, massive thanks to UK Seahawkers. Let's talk some draft class, Mitch, shall we? So,
yes,
we had a draft class.
We did have a draft class.
I
mean, where do you want to start? Are we starting at the top, or are we going to go in reverse? What do you want to do?
Let's start at the tippy top. With pick 16, the pick that we and thousands of Seahawkers around the world thought we're going to trade back, but we didn't. We stuck and picked. It was a stick and pick, and we took Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas. Now, Mitch, tell us, what did you have on your prospects list for him?
Well, this was a pick that I said a couple of weeks ago I was certain would be our pick. Mm-hmm. Now, at that point, I had thought that it would be after a small trade back, perhaps with the Eagles. However, as we got closer to the draft, and Charlie said this as well when he came on, it became quite heavily rumoured that the Bears might take him, and then that the Falcons would probably take him. So I think we probably gave up hope that he would be there. And I think that kind of added weight to the trade back strategy. Because if he's not there and, we don't have a player of that quality on the board, maybe we do look to trade back and get someone else and pick up a round 2 pick. However, he was there, and I think it shocked them he was still there. Honestly, I think he's the most polished and skillful defensive player in the draft. And that is saying something when you've got a guy like Latu who actually went the round before him, because that is a guy with a seriously polished up skill set as well. So I'm really pleased we got him. I do feel like he was best player available when we were picking. If he hadn't have been there, I really do think they'd have entertained the offers that we had a bit more, because we did have good offers. Apparently, there was plenty of decent offers that we turned down in favor of taking Byron Murphy. So I love the pick, and I think he has an immediate improving effect on our D line. And I think Draymond Jones is the interesting party here with how our roster looks, because I think we'll now see him playing a little more of a hybrid role. I think he'll play big end a little bit, and rather than being used as much as an interior lineman. I think he'll see more, and I think
if we retain him,
if he's still on the roster, I think he will be. I don't think we gain too much by trading him at this point, and we wouldn't get a pick to use this year because it's gone. So you trade him now, you're paying for him, and you're getting a pick. You just create a hole in your roster that you're paying for. So I don't think he gets traded. I do think not taking an edge rusher in the draft kind of points to the fact that we've got versatile people now on the roster who can help in that rotation. So Draymond Jones potentially becomes a sort of half an edge that we took in this draft, if you see what I mean by taking Murphy. So there's that. And I really do think that the huge upside with Byron Murphy is the fact that when people find him to be a problem and they start double teaming him, he's going to be more comfortable in a double team almost than with one player to beat, because the whole of his college career he just put doubles. So you put an extra person in his way and he's just used to it, and he was productive even with that. So I really think Byron Murphy is a problem and not for us. which is great.
This was one of those where I loved it. Obviously, everyone that watched the draft, everyone that's seen the draft order, was probably as shocked as pretty much everyone about the quarterbacks going off the board, Penix going to the Falcons, and how it fell. It seemed it was mind-boggling to watch it, because I've not checked everyone's mocks, but I'd love to see how many of the draft analysts had that as their top 10.
I mean, before this week, I think probably none. But as we know, Charlie came on our pod and told us that he'd been hearing that that was a possibility to the Falcons, and I think I took it with a pinch of salt, because it was a bit ridiculous. I mean, and there are lots of smokescreen stories that go out on draft day or the day before, and I saw it as just that. And then it happened that I was kind of sat here
and take him.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get people to come up and trade with them. But madness that happened. And on that note, right, so Kirk Cousins is the guaranteed starter for 2 years. That's in his contract, right? And it's 100 million 3 year. Was it 100 million 3 year? Is it more than that?
Carry on, let me check.
Yeah, so he's being paid a lot of money. Well, that's what we'll say. He's been paid a lot of money and he's a guaranteed starter for 2 years. Michael Penix came into this draft process as a 24-year-old or 25.
Before you go further, it's a 4-year, $180 million contract with $100 million guaranteed.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great.
Again, makes this even more ridiculous.
Yeah, so with Penix being an older quarterback, if he's got to sit there behind Kirk Cousins for 2 years, he's then a 26-year-old quarterback that you're paying on third-year round one pick money that you need to make a decision on whether you're extending, and he's not played for you unless Kirk Cousins has been injured. It is a baffling decision. I honestly have no idea what they were thinking.
I love I know obviously we're a Seahawks pod, but I find this really funny. I loved the video clip of their GM desperately doing what I call an ace. It was an arse covering exercise, trying to explain to the owner why they'd done it, and all the gesticulation, all the hand movements, everything else was like, oh no, we've done it this because with this, and obviously in a few years, like that owner must be raging. He must be saying to him, I have just paid Kirk Cousins 100 million guaranteed, 180, if he sticks out the length of the contract, and you just drafted a quarterback in the first round in the top 10 who's going to be on top 10 money, who's going to be a backup for 2 years. The only thing I can think is they look at Kirk Cousins as older quarterback, could be a bit Mr. Glass, and they need someone that'll be able to step in and do a job properly for him. I'll be honest, I think if Penix does that, Cousins might have a job getting his starting role back if Penix starts playing like he did when he was at the top of his game with the Huskies. So either way, worked out well for us. Those rumors were nothing. We got an absolute stud defensive tackle to go along with,
yes, we
like
did.
you said, Draymond, who can now move on to pseudo edge. We've got Reed, who had a resurgence last year, and we've got Big Cat, Leonard Williams, who, if Murphy's going to be learning from those two veterans, that is a heck of a position to be in. And again, if they're double teaming Murphy, that's how they're going to leave Reed or Big Cat with one man to beat. And as we saw last year, Reed relishes that. So,
yeah, 100%. And don't forget that Mike Mack is going to be putting 7 or 8 players on the line of scrimmage each time. If you immediately assign 2 people to just one of those players, imagine if he's not even rushing on that play. How Mike Mack drops DTs back into the hook to cover tight end, tight ends on crossing routes and stuff. Well, imagine if you assign a center and a guard to blocking Murphy, and he tags you and then backs off into coverage, and the 6 remaining players that are at the line of scrimmage are rushing against 3 linemen, not 5. It's honestly, it's so funny. It's so funny, and I'm really, really pleased. He was told he's going to be 3 tech as well, wasn't he? He was told by John Schneider he was going to be a 3 tech for us rather than nose and rather than defensive ends,
which I'm happy about, because I think at 3 tech is going to be most devastating. On the nose, I think it'd be a bit. It depends if they see him as like an AD, because AD played all along that line, you know. And if they put him at 3 tech, but then every now and again he shows at nose, and they just keep shifting him to wherever he's going to be most impactful per play, per game, per opponent, I'm all for that. And like you said, the fact we didn't take an edge means that we're now going to focus on this DT group. I think the edge class with the edge group we've got, with an exception of Darryl Taylor, with more progression. We know Nwosu, when he's healthy, he is a fantastic player on the edge. You know, when he went injured last year, our run game, everything just evaporated. Boye Mafe had his sophomore surge last year, and I was so happy with that. I think he's a fantastic player. He's got all. We signed him. Well, we drafted him in the 2nd round due to all of his measurables. Not a lot of play on tape, but fantastic. And Derek Hall, I'm really hoping has the same trajectory as Mafe, getting more snaps, getting more comfortable with what we're asking him to do, and he gets more comfortable in the league. And we all know I'm a big Derek Hall homer. I'm happy to say that, you know. But there you go. So Byron Murphy, great player. Have we got any stats for him, Mitch? You got any you can throw out?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a few bits. So in some of his interviews at the Combine, he was telling people that he considers himself a run stuffing player. You know, he was talking a lot about his ability to stop the run, which I think was a really clever ploy, because it's his lowest graded stat by a lot of websites, or lowest graded attribute. So I think he was trying to overcompensate for his one weakness.
There,
yeah. So he was coming across really confident in it. However, during his time in college, he never graded lower than the 75th percentile at run stopping. And when you consider in the same positional group you had nose tackles that were 6'5", 330 plus, and he's a 305, 6'1", right, or 6 foot, you know, that's actually crazy to be 75 rated. In fact, in his last year, he was 80.5 percentile, which is mad. So it was his lowest graded attribute, but it was actually an overachievement for his size and frame. His big win is in pass rush win rate, which we saw as a big thing this year for Boye Mafe, who had some pretty astronomical percentages there. And I think we saw Garrett at about 28% as an edge or as a defensive end last year. Well, Byron Murphy as an interior lineman was over 20%, which is really high, which was 98th percentile in college last year. So beating his guy on the inside is what he does for fun. And when you consider the amount of times that was a double team as well, that is nuts. If he wasn't double teamed as much as he was, that was a 99 to 100 percentile, not a 98. So that's, yeah, just crazy. Also, he's 21, by the way.
Yeah, and we said this on previous pods. So some of the players that we have, or we've been looking at, if you get them really young, much like him, by the time he finishes his rookie contract, and obviously we'll discuss the ones that we missed that we were really high on, he's going to be 25, with obviously his 5th year option, then 26. Now that is perfect. If you're going to blood someone and give them that much experience in the league, because he'll end up being the incumbent defensive tackle. If the trajectory is what we all predict, then he will be commanding big money and he will be a priority to re-sign every year, which is exactly what we want, because Reed has got 1 year left in his contract. And then we signed Williams, was it 2 year?
Williams was 3, and then
3.
Jonathan Hankins was 1 as well.
There you go. So
Yeah,
he's going to end up, after this season, he will be an incumbent starter. So just very quickly, just a big shout out to Jonas from the German Seahawkers talking about the Penix pick. It was his spill the coffee moment in the draft. It was for us as well. I had no idea what was happening. We were on our live, and I was going, "What? What?" And I'm pretty sure most of the Falcons fans, as you've probably seen the videos, said the exact same thing. And William, don't worry, the UDFA edge from Houston, we will get to very soon. Right. So that was pick 16. We then had to wait all the way to the 3rd round for pick 81. We took guard Christian Haynes out of UConn.
Yes, we did.
Now Haynes, I'm just going to have my moment in the sun here. Haynes was one of the guards that I mocked to us very early in my mock drafts, just because I loved his measurables. After watching some of his college tape, I really liked it. But then, as Mitch and I did more sort of investigation, we thought there were others that we could have / should have taken. And yeah, we ended up with Christian Haynes, who has said that he used to watch Geno Smith videos as sort of a hype video for himself, which I found really weird. Geno Smith in West Virginia getting a guard hyped up. Same again as well. Byron Murphy is a Seahawks fan and was throughout his youth. Now I don't know how much of that is trying to get the fan base on board, or he actually was. If he is, signing 12s. That's every 12's dream who plays football. But yeah, Mitch, Christian Haynes, what is your opinion?
Yeah. Before we go too far past what you've just said there about them, both of those prospects being Seahawks fans, I think we're actually in a bit of a sweet spot where the Legion of Boom was a set distance away, in that there were a lot of players now coming out of the draft process who were young when the Legion of Boom were in their prime. And a lot of these guys coming out of college will have watched a lot of the Seahawks during the Legion of Boom days. So
yeah.
I do think whether people say, because neither of them said, "Oh, I'm a massive 12," or I've been to games, or they're not local guys. So there's a pinch of salt there. But I do think that they definitely will have watched a lot of the Legion of Boom. And when a unit are that elite and they are a sort of generational defense or a generational offense, players young people that play the game will fixate on them, whether they're from that place or not, and watch a lot of their games. So I got the impression that they're not necessarily fans in the traditional sense, but they were big fans of the Legion of Boom. Do you see what I mean? That's the take I got.
Do you know what I liked about Murphy? He name dropped Doug Baldwin. He was going through all of these players that were synonymous with the Legion of Boom, and then Russ, and he spoke about Beast Mode. Then he spoke about Doug Baldwin. Now, fair play. That was one of those where I went, oh, maybe he was actually a fan to appreciate Doug.
Yeah, Christian Haynes name dropped Jermaine Kearse as well.
Yes, he did.
And I thought at the time, that's not the first one that rolls off the tongue. So there must be, he's either done a lot of research in a short period of time, or that was a genuine comment. So yeah, no, I like you, I picked that out. But about Haynes, the prospect, a lot of people had, including PFF, had Christian Haynes as the number 1 ranked guard. And when you look at players like Cooper Beebe, that's quite a thing to state, because there were people taken ahead of him that people were higher on. However, a lot of them had dual position versatility. You got players like is it Frazier out of West Virginia?
Frazier,
yeah, and you had Jackson Powers Johnson and Graham Barton. You had players like that had more stock because they had positional versatility. Christian Haynes is right. I mean, essentially, he's a right guard. He's more specific than just a guard. He is a right guard. And I don't mean he's a can of deodorant. He is He is a right-sided guard in the NFL.
God.
So there will be some swap over needed in order for him to move into that left guard position that I think he's being primed for. But yeah, he was very highly rated in that regard as a positional specific talent. He allowed 1 sack in 4 years and 40 pressures in that time. That's really good. It's really good.
And it was those measurables that put him in onto my draft board really early on. So I looked at that and I thought that they're phenomenal numbers. No, you can't get past that.
No, absolutely. PFF had him as the 53rd best prospect as well. So not only was he projected as a second round pick, he was a 53rd rated prospect. And also consider the fact that he was rated as a second round pick in a year when there were so many offensive linemen that were first round graded. So he was projected to sit in the middle of the second round in a year that had twice as many offensive tackles and guards and centers in that space. So in any other year, is he a late first rounder? Maybe his age lets him down because he's an older prospect, but
yeah,
I still think
6 years, wasn't he? He did 6 years in UConn. So he's got a master's in sports management or something. I can't remember what it was exactly, but I thought, oh, okay.
Yeah, he did that, and also there was the COVID year, which he sat out in UConn as well. So yeah, those are contributing factors, but probably the most maybe him and BB are the most NFL ready guards, and we needed one to be.
No, I'm happy with it. My only, I don't want to say apprehension because it's a great pickup. You know, they had him down as a second round pick, and we picked him up in the third. But then I look at sort of the players that went after him, and obviously we were really high on like Zach Zinter, Dominic Pooney. Then you had the host of sort of like your linebackers. You had like Liafu, Tyron Hopper as well. You know, there was just so many other players. Peyton Wilson. And obviously we'll discuss this when we talk about our thoughts on this draft. But yeah, it's just I can see why they did it based on his grading and where you could pick him up. It'd be hard to pass up on him, but still, I think yeah. Anyway, let's get past that one. First of all, fourth round picks at pick 118, we took linebacker Trice Knight from UTEP, who we had in for a visit.
Yeah, Tyrese Knight's a nice one. I understand. There's a few Trices in this draft class, right? Tyrese Knight is an interesting one. He has some flaws, and it's led to him going where he went. But anyone that turns around to me and says Jeremiah Trotter should have been the pick, those people aren't necessarily paying attention to the reasons why that guy is falling. And honestly, Tyrese Knight has a hell of a lot of upside, and the reason that he's not a third or round pick or higher is the fact that he's got work to do to be NFL ready. He's not ready now, and that's knocked him 30-40 spots down in the draft. We don't need him to start right away, and there are things that he does which are exceptional. The speed at which he diagnoses plays and instinctually closes on the ball, and also how highly sort of he's so sort of convicted to the tackle, like he just fully commits himself and is such a solid tackler. I love the fact that he shuts plays down so quickly and reads things so quickly. And I think Mike Mack said this when they were talking about the pick. They said he said he loves his eyes, which wasn't like a compliment about his complexion. It was about the fact that he
was so dreamy on his visit.
Yeah, he complimented how good his eyes were, and that's so key for linebackers, especially off-ball linebackers. They need discipline with that, and so good at that. So solid tackler, makes really good reads. Decent leadership qualities there as well. They said as well he comes across quite softly spoken, but he is a really clear communicator. And I think that was really interesting as well, because if you put an off-ball linebacker in there for 4 years with a 4th round pick, you're expecting him to play. And if you're expecting him to play, he is in prime position to wear the green dot. So the fact they mentioned the communication was quite clear. Those things we don't necessarily see too much when we're looking at a list of linebackers. There may be leadership concerns there, and you maybe don't want to put an off-ball linebacker in the middle starting all the time who isn't suitable for it. So, yeah, that's my take on the Tyrese Knight.
I see it very much as a project piece. I mean, Jonas again has chimed in to say that he got some people wondering, but he's raw. If there's a coach who can mold him, it's Mike Mack. And as a sports coach myself, if I see someone with those raw traits, like the
and instincts,
speed, processing speed, the instincts, the fact that he's so quick downhill to his tackle, I'm going to look at that and go, there are refinement points. But if I can take what he excels at now, gradually keep building that up, but then take his deficiencies and bring them up to a level within a year, he's not going to start this year. We all should know that. So everyone listening or watching, he won't start this year. He might get a couple of snaps. He'll be a lot of special teams, but he won't start. He will be a pet project for Mike Mack, who is John Schneider said, the quarterback whisperer. I thought the linebacker whisperer, and he is. If you've got something like that with a raw talent that you can then mold and teach your scheme and how you want it to play, that is perfect. So I'm all over that. He wasn't on my board, but it wasn't high on my board. I had him sort of like the eighth or ninth. I'll have to get back up. 8th or 9th linebacker there. At one point, I had Jeremiah Trotter above him. But I can see why they.
I think a lot of people did. He was the only first-round graded linebacker for a long time, Jeremiah Trotter. So
he was. Just very quickly, because Williams asked this question. He's asked a couple of questions now. I just want to get to it. So, moving away from the Seahawks to the 49ers, picking up the Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall in the first round. You know what? They seem to just be hedging their bets on fallbacks for Ayuk and Deebo Samuel at this point. He made that one outstanding catch. You know, that's one of the best catches I've seen in college football. To be able to take that one-handed whilst taking the contact and come down with it, fantastic. I don't think he's worth a first-round grade. He's not worth first-round money. That's my personal opinion.
I agree with exactly that, but I think they just saw a scheme fit or a comparison to what they've got. And I think with the rumor mill with Ayuk or Deebo and which one are they keeping, they've kind of hedged a little bit by saying we have understudies ready so that we don't have to change anything about what we do as long as we've got these guys in the room. So they've reached by 15 to 20 spots on Pearsall for me.
Yeah.
However, if they didn't get him, anyone else they got would not be the like-for-like player that they were hoping for. So I think they've avoided that. They've skipped that risk. It does mean for me that they've wasted a first-round pick
massively.
But I mean, I'll be quoted on that at some point by a 49er fan, I'm sure. But I feel like they've wasted that pick because of the reach. But then we're also possibly guilty of that on day 3 with a few things that we'll get to. So we're not completely innocent on that front for similar reasons potentially as well. Yeah.
Should we go to our? Let's start powering through these. Our second pick in the 4th round at pick 121, a podcast favorite, tight end from Michigan. One of Mitch's draft darlings, Mr. A.J. Barner. Mitch, wax lyrical, my friend.
The floor is mine.
Have a smug face. Go on, because you've mentioned this guy for the last like 2 months, if not longer.
Yeah. So this is for me the best blocking tight end in this year's draft, right? And let's not forget that we are replacing Will Dissly, and whilst we've got Pharaoh Brown, that is a 1-year deal, right? So ideally, we've got a successor to Pharaoh Brown, and he does look, when you look at him statistically and where his attributes are, lie, like a very similar kind of player. Now, AJ Barner, a surprising stat about AJ Barner is this, right? 36 36 broken tackles when receiving, right, was the second highest in college football last year after Brock Bowers. So this is a guy you put the ball in his hands hoping to move the chains, and he will break tackles for you. That's a great attribute to have when you are the lesser used tight end, because you're trying to catch people out when it's 5 yards. If you need 5 yards, it's third down. Oh, the inline tight end's caught that, and he's got, he's received it 3 yards from the line of scrimmage on a crossing route. No one can bring him down. He's got ripped off 10 yards. Luxury, absolute luxury. So that's a great extra thing to have. And when that lies with the same talent that is also your best blocker, brilliant. Also, factor this in: if you're second in broken tackles behind Brock Bowers, who was outstanding, right? But you were tight end number 2 at Michigan, who don't throw the ball. You're breaking a lot of tackles. Do you get where I'm going? Like, he's barely touching the ball, and he's up there with the number 1 generational tight end, by the way. So huge upside. Love the pick. Some people think we took him a couple of rounds early because their mock drafts always have him available in the 7th round. But let's not forget there was Jeremiah Trotter being taken in round 2. There was Leonard Williams being taken, high up, and those players didn't go where the mock draft told you they were going to go either. And we also picked AJ Barner after a run on blocking tight ends. Don't forget Cade Stover was still there. Teams needed blocking tight ends. So when we took Barner, he was running out, and from what I believe, he was our number 1 choice. So we were in grave danger. We were in grave danger of not getting our number 1 choice tight end. So I mean, reach or not, I think it was necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I see this pick very much as, and the more you hyped him up, the more I looked into him, and the more I fell in love with him as well. Because if his primary role is that of a blocking tight end, everyone goes, "Oh, we've got Pharaoh Brown, cool, yeah, for 1 year," and then this guy's with us for 4. And then you see his ability to create after the reception. Perfect. Because let's face it, Noah Fant, tight end 1, he's the receiving threat. Then you've got Brown and you've got Barner, who are going to both be there at 2A, 2B as your inline blockers. Fantastic. I'm not aboard this. It's a wasted pick as tight end, because everyone's got this thing of a tight end should be someone who can catch the ball and stretch the field for you. We've got one of them. Tight ends are also essential in that blocking scheme when it comes to your running game. Even if he becomes some pseudo downhill blocker for a wide receiver, awesome. There's a lot of people out there that I've heard and watched in the past day saying it was a wasted pick. Look at the value beyond pass catching and touchdowns. Look at what we're obviously looking to build. We've already got playmakers on the outside. We've got a tight end who is arguably one of the best field stretching tight ends in the league. We just need to get him the ball in the right space. And we've got a running back room, which we'll come on to later, maybe bolstered, and it's been bolstered in UDFA, which we'll speak to. But why wouldn't you want another tight end who can catch, can create yardage, and is a fantastic inline blocker?
Yeah.
I
completely agree.
Take your receiving threat hat off and put team in front. So that's Barner. Then we go on to round 5, pick 136. We go quarterback. Pardon my pronunciation of this. From Auburn. Are you going to make me do it, Mitch, or do you know how to pronounce it?
I can do it. It's Nehemiah Pritchett.
There you go. Right. That is one of 2 cornerbacks taken, both from Auburn.
Correct.
There you go. Go, Mitch. What have you got?
Nico Thorpe in influence there, I think. as we saw on the phone call. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nehemiah Pritchett's an interesting one. He was projected to go higher because of athleticism and physical traits. He's dropped possibly because of some holes in his game that we've seen a lot of already with an existing corner, which is Tariq Woolen. There's a concern over his tackling in the open field. There's a concern with some of his sort of hip flexibility when turning and going, heading back downfield. However, when he hits stride, he is rapid. He is a serious competitor in the air. He tips and defends so many balls. 436, correct? Yeah, good memory. Nailed it. Nailed it.
I do retain
but it's a really good example actually of a 40 not really giving you the real picture, because rapid in a straight line, but corners don't run a straight line. They backpedal and flip their hips and shadow, and they mirror underneath, and they need to be able to do all sorts of stuff. He's a superb superb cover corner, and he's a great competitor in the air, but he could get roasted by players that are quicker because of the stiffness in the hips and things. And also we might see screens going towards his end as well to isolate him and put him on an island where he needs to make an open field tackle. Those are Tariq Woolen issues that we'll see again with him. However, I will say that at 190 pounds and 6'1", he's better equipped than Woolen was last year to deal with that. On Woolen, his off-season weight program, it has got him looking stacked. So we already put Woolen into a position to be better in that area. We've now taken a corner to do the same job that Woolen's doing, but is already a bigger frame. I feel like it might be a better fit than Woolen for that, if you see what I mean, physically.
I see what you mean.
So, yeah.
I won't dwell on, because obviously we've got a conversation to have after this about the draft strategy anyway. Then if we go to round 6, we have 3 picks in round 6. Pick 179. It's down as tackle, but depending on where you go, is either a tackle or a guard. It's Sataoa Lamea.
Yeah, Sataoa Lamea. Yeah,
is another one that we had in our mocks?
Correct. Yeah, we did. We took him in a mock. We took him over a different sort of hybrid tackle guard prospect who I can't remember who it was, but that was one we'd taken a lot. Sataoa Lamea was a guy that I wanted to take in at least one mock, because I felt like that versatile lineman late on might be needed if we didn't get someone like Fatanu at the top. Sataoa Lamea is a really fierce competitor. When you listen to the phone call between Grubb and Huff and Sataoa Lamea, it becomes really obvious that they had targeted this pick. They spoke about the fact that they had to play against him for Utah when they were coaching Washington, and they had to really sort of make plans for getting around him, or dealing with him, because he was such an impactful piece. And they obviously know offensive linemen really well. Obviously, it's their job. But they picked him out. They picked him out as a standout, right? And there are some flaws in his game, and there will be things he needs to polish up. But he's not going to be relied upon to start. And he's a guy that they've already looked at and gone, I want that. Get that in our offensive line room. They can't wait to start working with him. And the funny thing was as well, when they spoke to him on the phone, they'd spoken before at games. Yeah. They had they coached him before as well?
No. So Huff said it's the chance for him to work with him, because they passed over recruiting him out of high school because they were trying to recruit him as a D tackle, but he wanted to play offensive line. So they tried to recruit him as a D tackle, and that's where he went, no thanks. So that's where he went to college on the O-line, and now it's serendipitous. It all comes round. It's I'm this is one of those late round tackle guard hybrids that I'm actually happy with. You know, having watched his film, like I said, he's got some flaws. I think he needs to work on his foot placement and his movement there. He's a big old guy. I think the hands could be a bit quicker. They're quite violent, but I don't think they're quick enough at times. But yeah, I'm happy with this one. You know, late round. We'll buzz through the next two. Another cornerback from Auburn at pick 192. We got DJ James, who's someone I mocked higher. So I'm happy with this in the sixth.
There's huge value here. He's moved all around the back end. He's played free safety, nickel, and perimeter. So whilst we haven't gone out and got a safety, and I don't think they're going to put him in. Don't read that as Mitch said. DJ James is. Yeah, Mitch definitely did not say that he's going to be a safety in the NFL. A 5'11" frame and his weight, I think he's 170. No, thank you. But he is experienced playing multiple positions in that defense. So if you are a coach that is going to scramble the look and put people in different positions, that is a guy you can work with. You can put him anywhere and he's not going to feel like he's massively out of position. That works. He's fantastic. He's fantastic ball hawking. Makes lots of athletic PDs and really throws himself around. He's going to be fantastic to watch, by the way. He's going to be superb to watch.
Looking forward to watching him. Like him over Pritchett. Pritchett, I can understand why we took him first, but James, what I really enjoyed was, first of all, you could put him in the nickel, which is going to free Witherspoon out to be out on the outside, but then vice versa. You can move them around. It's just a fantastic little chess piece. So I'm quite happy with that one where it is. Should we get on to the last one? And this is one that we spoke up on, and one of our followers on X spoke up about this as well. Mitch dropped this fella's name into the last pod. About 20 minutes in, did you say?
20 minutes into our Sleepers in Seattle.
Oh, that's the one, the Sleepers in Seattle. So not the last pod before. Go check it out and you can validate all of this. At pick 207, and I remember this because I made a joke about his college. Tackle from Findlay, Michael Gerald.
Yeah,
Mitch, hit our viewers and listeners with some facts.
Yeah, so Michael Gerald's a really fun one, right? He's playing Division II football at the University of Findlay, right? And I think he's a 2-star. No, he was a 1-star prospect, I think, coming out of recruit. And he was told he was really low. He had a really low ranking because of his weight and the position he wanted to play. And he was told by Findlay, or the University of Findlay, that if he went there and played tackle for them, they would get him to the NFL, which is an amazing thing to claim for a Division II team. For a Division II, they weren't. However, after his first year in college, he put on the weight. He played the position. They coached him for the position they told him he could do. He was immediately getting offers to transfer to Division I, top college programs. So he said this week after he was drafted that he had turned down those opportunities to transfer because more than anything, he wanted to see the words University of Findlay on the NFL screen, all over the screens, on people's televisions. He wanted to put the word out there. So he stayed loyal to a school that had put faith in him.
That word as well has been something that has resonated throughout pretty much every single one of our interviews.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
rife all over Twitter. Whenever you read any articles now on him, you'll see that come up a lot. It's fantastic. But the thing that really saved him,
he was a no-star recruit as well, by the way.
Was he no-star? There you go.
Zero.
Okay. Zero. Yeah. The thing that really saved him was his athletic testing at Ohio's Pro Day. He had I think it was a 98th percentile 40-yard dash.
Yep.
And usually when a lineman gets a really high percentile dash or split, it's because they're an undersized prospect. You'll see like a 6'1" guard that's like 300 pounds. You can see a clear reason why the guy has run that time. But you look at Gerald and he's sort of 6'5", 320.
Big old boy.
Yeah, he's a big size. He's a big size, and he was putting up, and it wasn't just that. It was in fact, it was all of his testing. I think there was only one or two things that he was slightly lower on, but it was an outstanding relative athletic score. In fact, his overall relative athletic score was in the top 9% of offensive linemen since 1987. He was in the top 9%. It's mad. And those things are, if you've got that athleticism and you've got those mentals and the loyalty and the right mindset, coaches they're happy to work with that in round 6. Do you know what I mean? If he had a transfer 2 years ago and gone to a SEC team or Big Ten or any one of those teams, we're looking at a second round, third round guy. Although he would have had 2 years of coaching in a fantastic system. Don't get me wrong; he'd be further down the line now and more NFL ready. It's not just the fact that he is under the lights on television; it's also the fact he'd been in a proper program. Sorry, I don't want to say proper program because that's really disrespectful, but a more renowned program.
I mean, for me, it was, yeah. God, how dare you?
Such a snob.
Yeah, for me, it's how many of these D1 schools are now looking at especially after his Ohio State Pro Day, because that's basically where John saw him. Because he even made a joke. He was like, "Oh, I didn't get the chance to go to Findlay and scout," as I don't think anyone did. For me, this is one of those. This is a very Seahawky story.
Yes.
D2 school, completely overlooked, but the guy has just put numbers up. And you look at those, the raw material that you can shine into a diamond, hopefully at some point. And if it doesn't work out, he's a 6th round pick. It doesn't matter. This is one of those where, pulled on my heartstrings a little bit. Quite liked it. He's not going to start. We all know this, but if he can work with Huff for a few years, if we keep Huff on, perfect. And we can make him into a decent swing tackle or someone that just sticks around on the roster, because he's obviously Stone Forsythe. This is last year of his rookie deal, and he hasn't showed enough to be retained. I think this is what that is all about. But yeah, that right there is the draft picks. We've obviously gone through it. We've said about when we think they're a starter or they're going to be a project piece. Should we run through the UDFAs?
We can.
As William has asked this question, and we were talking about edges and being happy with that, we've obviously taken Nelson Cesar, the edge from Houston, highly rated. He was actually graded, I think, as a day 2 prospect. Someone who will win the starting berth. Picking him up as a UDFA, fantastic. 6'3", 254 pounds, 33 and 5/8 arm length. I do apologize. I'm reading this because UDFA's only happened today, and some of us have got lives where we need to do things. Some of us watch the London Derby. Some of us take our 4-year-old daughter to the cinema for the first time and regret that decision. But team captain last year, all Big 12 third team. The strengths as per the Draft Network: versatile in alignment, natural athleticism, quick first step, high motor. Concerns: pass rush counter moves. IQ diagnosing run plays. Now, William, just to talk about him there. Now, I'll try to do a bit more film sort of research on him, but just looking at the concerns, for me, that screams Darrell Taylor.
Yeah, but
That is
I will say
bringing
his
in practice
production's
squad.
very good though. His production's very good. I think he had 8.5 sacks and over 10 TFLs last year from memory.
So possibly, I need to double check it, but
I mean, I'm going off the top. I haven't got it in front of me, but I know there's production there. But it does feel to me when you look through the scouting profile that he's one with effort rather than pass rush moves. He'd need to be very coachable to be able to get into a position to actually make the roster. So
again, it's just depth, practice. Go against these young tackles that we've drafted and see what you do. Not excited. UDFAs, it's very rare I'll get excited or overhype a UDFA. And I know, obviously, with us being a UK-based pod, we don't have allegiances to colleges. We don't have all the access. We can watch it, but we don't get to see some of these players in their minutiae. It's very rare I get hyped about a UDFA. Last year, I got hyped about Jay Bobo because I saw him play at UCLA, and I thought he could do a job in the NFL. Why has no one drafted him? But yeah, it's a wait and see for me on that one. So hopefully that answers your question, William. We'll try and get more stats out, and we'll try and get something on it, but it's not exciting for me at all. When it comes to edge, I want to see, especially in the scheme we're going to be playing, the things I don't want to see are questions about IQ when diagnosing run plays. Because we've already got one of them. So
yeah,
it's a younger Darrell Taylor. Cool. We took as well a running back out of Boise State. We took George Holani. Yeah. So 5'10", 208 pounds. I mean, another depth piece. Obviously, we'll talk about what we feel may happen with running backs later, but yeah. What have you got, Mitch? Anything on him?
Really productive with yards. I mean, he's multi-thousand yard running seasons. So he's a productive guy. I mean, we've just lost Bryant Koback off the squad because he's retired, obviously. But he was another guy who had years and years of highly productive college, production. So we've replaced like for like in some respects. 7 touchdowns last year, pretty good.
Missed half the season as well, didn't he? With a lower
half the year.
Yep.
That's it, and he had 10 touchdowns the season prior. So there is consistent production there, and also an upward trend with that production. So he was an improving prospect. We had actually had him mocked to us in a number of mocks that I'd seen with a 7th round pick, and I did want to mention the fact that we gave up a 7th round pick in our trade back with the Broncos, and a guy that was rumored to be a 7th round pick target, Holani, we ended up getting in UDFA anyway. So
value with a capital V
worked really well. Yeah.
There you go. Next up, we had someone that we actually discussed in our last mock, who we could have taken in the 7th or the 6th, but we decided to stop and wait because we thought he was going to be UDFA. Lo and behold, the small Seahawks podcast from Britain was right. Jack Westover, tight end from Washington Huskies. So yeah he's we said someone like Westover would be a fantastic piece for Grubb to bring in to teach the rest of this offense. When you think about tight end being so close to the line, knowing what he needs to do, whether it's inline blocking or running out into the flats or across the field, perfect to bring him. He's obviously from Bellevue, Washington as well, which is perfect. He's not had to move pretty much his whole life. But yeah, bring him in as UDFA. I think that's fantastic value. That's the opposite to AJ Barner.
Yeah,
but Mitch, I know you've got some bits.
Yeah, I mean, just to mention that he'd received about 75 receptions in 2 years from Michael Penix, and he'd made about 800 yards out of that. So he is averaging 10 yards of reception. He had an extremely good quarterback at the college level throwing to him. I think a lot of people look at him as a receiving tight end without a huge amount of run blocking prowess, and we got that with Farrah Brown, and we've got that with Ejibana now, and we've then got a receiving tight end and a backup. He may not even make the roster. I think Tyler Mabry is a guy that has been with us a long time and may well make the cut rather than UDFA. Yeah, but a serviceable tight end piece. We predicted it might happen. We got him at a good price. Happy days.
I'll take it. I mean, the biggest slight people had on him were things like he's not the stereotypical size for an NFL tight end. Fine, you can't argue with those metrics. And the one thing I'm literally looking at the NFL prospects rundown on him, schemed into easy releases and simple catches at Washington. Good. He's a tight end. Not everyone is a Travis Kelce, who you can run these weird and wonderful like route concepts with. Tight ends just need to get out quick into the flat, receive the ball, and if they can make yak, perfect. I don't get why that's a slight on him anyway. But yeah, I'll take it. Hometown boy coming to the hometown NFL team. There's a lot of sentiment there, and I think with Grubb, he'll know what he's getting and know how to utilize him the best. This is where we said about Mabry. He's been with us for so long, but he's not really done a lot. He's just obviously a good locker room guy. The fact that he was with us for so long with Pete Carroll and that system probably prolonged his life on the practice squad. Whereas now he's got to come in and he's starting at the exact same level with the scheme as everyone else who's either there or is joining. He's got to learn it. Someone like Jack Westover could have the upper hand there because he knows the scheme. He knows Grubb. He knows how to talk to Grubb. He knows what the signals may be. He knows how to work it. So that'll be an interesting battle when it comes to training camp. We've then got another linebacker, someone from Wyoming, Easton Gibbs. So he's 6 foot, 232 pounds. I'll be honest, this man was not even on my radar. No idea.
Neither mine. I'm not going to pretend to know something. Nothing from me on this one. I'd love for him to be a surprise with the state of our linebacker group. But
I mean, if you're looking at Lance Erline, he said from his strengths, he's stacked up impressive tackle numbers over 3 straight years. He scrapes with pads square at the line of scrimmage. Perfect. Willing to step into gaps. So he's good for run blocking or run defense. Adequate change of pace, which obviously when you say adequate, that means it's not exceptional, but it'll do, which means he'll get gassed by speedy running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. Closes out space. But then again, weaknesses, and this seems to be a consistent weakness. Diagnosis and track of the ball is highly erratic, lacks athleticism. It's that unless our coaching team is that good, we're picking up these players with these great traits, good numbers, but there seems to be that concentration lapse or the IQ. So that's one to watch. We said we needed more linebacker help. If we've got someone in UDFA who we think we might have to work with, practice squad player. See how he goes. And then we picked up another tackle, Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State, 6'6", 311 pounds.
Yes. Yeah. Highly rated guy, actually. He for some people had a 5th or 6th round grade, and there are people that look at the Michael Jarrell pick and think that a guy like that could have been a better pickup. But you've got very different things there. You've got a guy who's got a lot of tape and against a higher caliber of opponent, and then you've got a guy who's got all of the intangibles and the athleticism, and it's just a case of finding out what his level is and can he mix it at the next level. That there's a lot less work to do with Michael Jarrell than there is, I would say, with someone like him. However, we've hedged our bets there a little bit, because if it turns out that Gerald can't, mix it at the caliber required, we've got a guy that can step in and we can take another shot with. So I feel like we've hedged our bets a bit there. It's far more exciting for me to have Michael Gerald, just because I know that our offensive line is going to be, there's going to be lots of post-snap movement and stunts, and it's going to be there's a need there for pulling guards and lots of athleticism, and Michael Gerald could be taught that and excel at it. Mm-hmm. And then you put other 6th, 7th graded linemen in there and ask them to do that. They've never done that. They don't have the physical makeup to do that. That's not even a square peg in a round hole. That's far worse than that. It's Gerald is a moldable ball of clay with a lot of potential. Some of these guys are picking up in UDFA, tackle wise and guard wise. They are more restricted. Let's put it that way.
They're checkers pieces on a chessboard.
A little bit, and that doesn't mean to say that I'm already writing him off. I just feel like there's a few people in competition in our offensive line room now, and I think the athletic upside probably wins out, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. Then we, as always, took a quarterback as a UDFA. Now I'm going to guess that Plumley wasn't available, because we went for Chevan Cordero, quarterback from San Jose State Spartans. And looking at his numbers, he's never been above a 62.3% completion. Right.
And 59 last year, right?
That was 61.4 last year. 223 completed passes out of 363. I need to put my glasses on for these pods when I'm reading these. He's had he's had an uptick in his touchdowns. He had 2022, 23 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns last year. However, his interception rate has dropped from 2021, where he had 11, down to 6, down to 4 last year. And his longest throw last year was 63 yards. A practice squad player here. I don't even think we need to speak about him too much. It's just, let's pick up a quarterback to be able to throw with a practice squad, because with those numbers, I don't think there's going to be many people that are going to come and try and nick him off a practice squad.
Yeah, and if we drafted a Spencer Rattler or Jordan Travis or someone like that, we are then committing ourselves to keeping 3 quarterbacks on the roster.
We can carry 3, but I think we're probably going to look at see who's going to be a free agent or someone else like that. I don't see him being the third we'd carry. No, I wouldn't. We can as our third.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to the mighty Grambling State and the edge that we picked up in Sundiata Anderson. 240 pounds, 6'5". Last season posted a total of 41 tackles, 19 solo, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and that's your lot.
Excuse me if I don't get. I really want to be excited by them, but not this one. This one's not for me.
I can't. I just can't. Yeah, practice squad. Bring him in. We might retain him on practice squad. We might not. They might see something in him during the pre-season work. I don't know. Training camp. They might go, oh, actually, he's got some bits we can work on, but.
I mean, Levi Bell was the darling of last year, wasn't it? And that was a similar situation. I know he's still with us, but I wouldn't mind another story like that. So I'm rooting for him, but I just can't get excited about it right now.
And then Scott, one of our viewers on X, his last name is Scott Anderson on X. His last name's Anderson. He'll be great. That's justification. There you go. My last name's
I think I'd rather have Scott. I think I'd rather have Scott in there. He's like a. I mean, what are you, Scott? About 190, 6'2". You'd do on the edge. You could do a job.
Practice squad player at least. And then last but not least, we took a wide receiver. We took Hayden Hatton from the Idaho Vandals. Now, this is someone who our friends at Let's Talk Seahawks have been hyping up, who they think should have been drafted. Last year, 92 receptions, 1,226 yards, 9 TDs. 1 carry, minus 23 yards. So we don't let him carry. There's no jet sweeps happening in this man's life. But, you know, taking a wide receiver, a punt at wide receiver as a UDFA, I'll take it. You know, 6'2", 210. Yeah, why not? I mean, UDFAs, and I'll be very blunt here, the majority are UDFAs for the sake of being UDFAs because people didn't see them as good enough to start in the league. Now, there are some exceptions. Don't get me wrong. There are some that really do surprise. But for one of the questions we were asked, what one guy from the UDFA list makes the roster this year? This is dependent. Now, Mitch and I have a theory that we may see a return of Rashard Penny, but that would be Rashard Penny not as a running back Rashard Penny, or RB4 it might be, but as kick returner Rashard Penny, which, Mitch, what was it you said about the kick return earlier when we were off air?
I was just saying that if Rashard Penny was back and he wasn't relied upon to be RB1 or RB2 or even RB3, we might suddenly be in a position for the first time ever to want him to do special teams for us. It would have been a dreaded situation before when he was with us, putting him out there for extra snaps.
Butt puckering.
Yeah, exactly. But now, actually, with him not being relied upon to be, a 3-down back for us or a 2-down back for us, he could be extremely good returning the ball with Laviska Shenault, and would be an absolutely outstanding fill-in for Ken Walker or Zach Charbonnet if we had an injury down the line. Touch wood.
There you go. Special teams, special players.
Absolutely.
Special plays. There you go. Chuck that in there as it seems to be doing all the rounds on that young person's TikTok. For me, I think the one player that I'm looking at from this whole UDFA class that has a chance of making the roster this year, as we've said, or as I've said, is Jack Westover. I think he would be the one that I think is at the top of the pile there, having the history with Grubb as an offensive coordinator, knowing the type of things that Grubb's probably going to want to run, knowing the verbiage. Grubb's also going to look at what he can offer and how we can get him into a game. That's a pretty simple one for me.
Yeah, I agree. That the hometown thing and the familiarity with our new coaching team they're factors that I think really help him. So that gives him the inside track for me, makes him a favourite to make the roster.
There you go. So, William, it is for our money is Jack Westover. Now we've done UDFAs, we've done the draft picks. Oh, Mitch, before we do our grades, which is another question that William asked earlier.
I think it was
Scott actually. Scott, apologies, Scott. Sorry, and Scott is 6'3", just to get that right. As he's told us.
That could be the difference between a whole round in the draft.
Exactly,
being a 6'3" edge instead of a 6'2". I'm sorry, Scott. Done you dirty.
If anyone else watching wants to tell us their height, we'll be able to tell you where you might be able to play in the league or get drafted. Right. So, do we want to go with the positive spin or the mediocre negative spin on this first? Do you want me to drop people down? You can lift them up.
Yeah, say your bet. Say your bet, and I'll give you my take.
This draft class I see as mediocre, which you'll see in my grade, my score later. The first 2 picks I see as starters. I think they're going to see Christian Haynes and go, "You're a starting guard," even though just signed Leighton Tomlinson, even though he's God knows how old and he's got all this under his belt. I think you'll quickly see Haynes in a rotation. Byron Murphy will be heavy in a rotation. I think we're relying on him quite a bit. Tyrese Knight, project piece. AJ Barner, and this is obviously, I see this very much a draft that they've probably viewed with not success this year per se, winning record just about, but success going forward with more coaching. AJ Barner, we said we love him, and I can see him being at starting rotation as tight end 3. The cornerbacks, yeah, James, he can slot in anywhere in that backfield, which is great for disguises. Pritchett, Tariq Woolen 2.0, suspect tackling. So I sincerely hope the Seahawks at some point bring on a tackling specialist as a coach, because it's something that's plagued us for years and has had my hairline receding at more of an elevated rate. Lemea, I really like that as a late round pickup, and Gerald, great story, could do bits, could not, late round flyer. This draft, I think they missed on so many players and so much potential by taking the players they took when they took them. We've been crying out for the fact that who's going to be our next starting linebacker, inside linebacker, who's a leader, who is going to who's going to elevate this team. Byron Murphy will elevate this team. I'm happy we didn't trade back with that, because I think that's a fantastic pickup. But I think we've missed out on players in later rounds. I think we've overlooked players by trying to be too smart. I think unless there's a greater plan, obviously I'm not a GM. From a coaching point of view, if I see someone with the intangibles that I can coach up, awesome. But this, after round 1, I don't think, with the exception of AJ Barner and me messaging Mitch going, "Called that one, mate," I didn't jump off my seat for anyone. Haynes, I can completely understand it with where he was projected and how good he can be, how good he's rated. But I didn't jump off my seat for anyone else. I didn't see a late round flyer that I went, "Oh, that's a great pickup in the late round." But then again, I'm not the stats and figures guy on this pod. That falls to this man. And I've pointed the right way this time, haven't I, Mitch?
Yeah, you've done all right.
Yes. Getting used to it. Right. There you go. Just point away from my mic. That's all it is. I'll give my grade once Mitch has said his bit, because he might be able to convince me otherwise, but I doubt it. I expected more. I got less, and there you go. That's my opinion. Chastise me all you want. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Don't care. That's my personal opinion on this. I think we could have done better. We've picked up some decent players, but I think there's other positions of need that we should have focused on as well to try and round out this roster.
Okay. So
I'll put myself on mute so you can carry on with this. Go.
There's a lot to unpack. First of all, I think it's strategic taking 2 corners. I've thought about it a lot, and I actually think that this is a very strategic move. There is going to be some spots on this roster that need to be chopped in order to get us under the effective cap, and also to change the makeup of those positional groups so that we have players on the roster into the future that don't need extending or, need to be paid. Mike Jackson is one. Artie Burns is another. So they are players without guarantees that can be chopped for a sum total of $3 million, right? So if you take 2 middle or late round cornerbacks, put them all in camp together, cut or trade 2 of those, Mike Jack or Artie Burns or both, or cut, put in rookies in place. All of a sudden, then you've got 3 or 4 corners on the roster who you don't need to worry about extending for the next 2 years. You'll have Woolen, you'll have Witherspoon, you'll have Pritchett, and you'll have James. 4 cornerbacks on the roster. You've freed up that money. You potentially bring back Quandre Diggs to be the safety that you didn't draft.
I was going to mention that later, but yeah.
Sorry, I've ruined it.
You ruined the surprise now.
bring,
That's a big finish gone.
Yeah. I just feel like if you do it that way, you can pick 2 cornerbacks that you think are a fit for the system you're building. They don't have to start year 1 so you can coach them, which, let's face it, Mike Mack is itching to get into coaching. Every interview I watched, he just seemed to want to do the coaching thing.
Oh yeah, he hates the calls. He hates the calls and hates the press. Like that.
I think
was
he hates
evident.
it,
Every
yeah.
single call, it was like, yeah. Who you with? You excited? Yeah, cool. Are you with your family? Yeah. Well, yeah. You go enjoy that hunt on someone else. He's for me, Mike Mack's all business. He's all coaching, all wanting to win. So I'm fine with that. And can I just say, before you go further, God damn you if you're out of box thinking, Mitch, because there's me acting on emotion and impulse, and you're there thinking about the holistic view.
Yeah, sorry.
Go on, make me look like a fool even more.
No, I just think that you've added lifeblood into the cornerback room. You potentially have players. There's not many positions on this roster now where you can go, there's 3 or 4 million we can cut there. There's 2 million. There's not. There is in the cornerback room. But if you're to do that, and then you spend that money on a safety, who are you bringing in on a veteran minimum when you've just removed 2 guys that are in the system already on the veteran minimum? That it doesn't work. So you have to replace those with scheme fit, low cost rookies. I'm sorry if that makes too much sense, but I feel like that was the move.
I hate you at times. I love you, but I hate you at times. I really do.
I think a lot of people who have moaned about our draft strategy and what we've done have looked at it and gone, have we traded back, got extra picks and taken 2 corners when we have too many corners? That for me then screams we're revamping that room. And that's such a weird thing to say because it's one of the rooms we were most content with, but we were most content with that room with temporary fixes filling it up. And I'll tell you another room that we are content with now that is full of short-term fixes. Are you ready?
Well,
the offensive line room. Now you could look at it and go, okay, we've taken Michael Jarrell, we've just taken Satawa Lamea, and we've also taken Haynes, right? All of a sudden now you're looking at that room going, well, we've just signed these free agents, we're going to have to cut them again. Do you know what I mean? Like that again makes no sense. The fan base go into meltdown. But what Huff and Grubb said to the offensive lineman was, we want you to come in and compete, right? Which is such a Pete Carroll thing to say. But they've loaded that room with talent and experience and intangibles and athleticism, and they've just put 10 bears in one small space and told them to fight it out. And that is when was the last time we had any competitive, like we've never had, we've had a starting offensive line and Stone Forsyth and Haynes, not the new Haynes, the old Haynes, and there's not been any competition for those positions. So that's really refreshing that we've overloaded on offensive line, get that right for when we're competing in 2 years' time. Refresh the cornerback room, so we've got those guys. So we've got a fresh room of young corners that aren't yet at veteran contract yet, ready for 2 years' time when we're competing. I honestly I don't have a problem with it because I can see the direction. There are players I'd rather have taken because we'd mocked them to our team and we watched all the highlights and the time had gone into the tape and we thought about it and we strategized where we could take them, and we haven't. And now we look a little silly because of that. But just maybe, they're playing 4D chess with the way they're restructuring some of these rooms on our roster.
Well done for dropping in a Star Trek reference there as well.
You're welcome.
I completely see what you're saying. I really do, and I understand that. And obviously, if Quandre comes back on vet minimum, he should be happy with that because we've just paid him a fortune to get him off that massive contract anyway. And he's still quite vocal on Twitter saying, "Oh, I hope my agent's going to get his butt in gear and make some calls." If he's still in Seattle, then the first call they're going to make is, right, do you want Q back in a leadership role to help with your safety room now as well? And they'll be like, vet minimum? Cool, let me speak to him. And he'll probably go, love that place. Let's see what Mike Mack's doing. And yes. Because the fact he's not been picked up yet, unless there are teams out there that go, we missed that safety that we wanted to get in the draft, let's call Quandre. Or if you're really desperate, Jamal. The fact that you've highlighted that and the cap situation is something that I'm acutely aware of at the moment. It makes sense. It really does. And we've said that this isn't so for everyone watching, thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and whatnot, or don't. It's up to you. Free world. I think that with the cap situation, with where we're going, and this is not going to be a win now scenario. So everyone needs to get that out of their head. It's not win now. It's a brand new coach, brand new scheme, brand new system, taking down photo walls of legends and replacing them with, video walls because, God forbid, 2024, it's a total new start. It's new brush sweeps clean. We still got the same players, but they're going to be asked to do something completely different, and there'll be a bedding in period. There will be people cut that we may not expect to clear, but by what Mitch has said, taking these players and backfilling these positions with cheap late round picks that within a year or two will be able to start and know the system. I know this as a coach as well. That's the worst thing. Every team I've ever taken over as a coach or a manager, I know it doesn't fall into place straight away. There's a bedding in period. And in professional sports, it takes at least a year. If you're bringing in new systems, you've made complete sense. But with that, I don't care. I'm going to give this a draft grade of, are we going A to Z or are we going 1 to 10? Because Scott asked 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this draft? The draft in a whole, that first round, I'm rating a mind-boggling 4 because I had no idea about some of those players going where they went. Seahawks, Mitch has talked me up from a 5. It's now 5.1. No, it's a 6. I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
Lack of wow factor in later rounds for me.
Okay, I'm grading higher than you, but I'll explain why. If I'm grading day one, it's a 9.5 for me, at least.
Oh, yeah.
And it could even be a 10. Honestly, it could be a 10. 10. Okay, yep. So that's day 1 of 3. So that's 33% of my grade is a 10. We only picked one player on day 2, but you have to remember that Leonard Williams is also our second round
day
pick.
2 pick.
So yeah. Leonard Williams, Christian Haynes, that's a 9. So I'm a 9 at this point. I'm a 9.5, right? And then I'm going to grade day 3, and there's how many picks there? 6. 3 of them I like, and I like where we got them because players fell to us, and we got good deals. And that I would say that's Pritchett, James, and Satawa Lamea were players that fell to us, right? So those are fine. Those are probably a 7 out of 10 because we got good value, despite them not being positional needs necessarily. They fell to us. We got good value 7s. Michael Jarrett, Michael Gerald. God damn it. I love the athleticism, but we're taking a shot, so it's a 6 or a 7 for me. So I'm still on a 6, and then the other 2, AJ Barner, I love, so that's a high grade, probably an 8. Actually, no, we'll call 7 because I like the player, and we had to reach up to get him because there was a run on tight ends, so that's lower. But basically, what I'm saying is day 3 ends up being a 6.5 or a 7, but day 1 and 2 were 10s. So I can't go any lower than an 8.5 overall. Sorry.
God damn you and your numbers and logic.
8.5 or a B plus for me. And I think PFF said 8.5, said B plus as well. And it's just for those reasons. Your round 1, 2, and 3 need to be impact starters, and we got D-line impactful starter, D-line impactful starter, offensive line impactful starter. They did it. And then the rest of it needs to be shots with upside, depth chart fillers, and good value that falls to you. We did all of that. Sorry, mate. Sorry to be the eternal optimist here. But
I'm not like the pessimist. That's the thing. But I looked at that, and for me, it was that lack of wow. Like, I looked at some of the teams and went, "Wow, they have hit this hard." Like the Eagles, as always, and then the Steelers. I thought the Steelers have now just revitalized their organization with what they did, which pains me because my best friend is a Steelers fan, and I know for a fact next time I see him, he's going to mention all that to me. Luckily, I'm now, and I hope everyone that's watching or listening is armed with a bit more information about our draft picks and our UDFAs. We will be back next week with our regular hour-long pod, where we're going to do a breakdown of the roster because there might be some changes this week. We might see someone signed or someone's cut. In the meantime, thank you, everyone, all of you that have watched, anyone that's listening to this on any of the podcasting platforms or is catching this video later on. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share. That'd be awesome. Any comments or likes that you leave really help the algorithm and really help us. If you'd like to appear on the pod as well, especially when the season starts, don't be shy. Send us a DM, slip right in there, and either Mitch or I will speak to you. We'll get something lined up. And then if you want to come on, by all means, then tell your friends, tell your mum, your dad, your auntie, your uncle, your cousin. If they're a Seahawks fan, we want to speak to them. We want everyone's point of view on this. And if you don't quite want to get on the pod, but you want to speak to us and the rest of the 12 talkers, join the Discord. It's the pinned post on our X. It'll be on our Facebook group, and it's shared regularly on our Instagram as well. We'd love to have you guys in there because the conversations they just keep coming. And I find them amazing. Like I said, I dip in and out, and whenever I come in, it's that way, isn't it? It's there. I've got it right as well, haven't I? It's down there.
You did.
And for anyone that's the first time joining in, I always get the direction right because I think my camera's flipped, so it's that bit there. But yeah, from me, I just want to say a massive thank you. The draft is over. We can look forward to the rest of the season now. Mitch, any final thoughts, my friend? Come on, give us a word of wisdom.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Caleb Williams for the best joke of the draft weekend when the Bears had 4 picks in the draft and they spent the 4th one on a punter, and Caleb Williams immediately texted him to say, "Don't worry about the punting. There's not going to be any this year," which I thought was incredible.
I want to hate him, but sometimes I'm like, you know what, I kind of like
great.
you.
Yeah, no, great banter. So yeah, no, just wanted to end with that little anecdote from Caleb Williams. So,
well, there you go. With that, I'm going to say, brother, special player or special teams, special players, special plays. Peace out. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.